Big addition, not gonna.
If you love wisdom, put your mind up to the ceiling. Don't let it stay in the gutter. Don't let your heart get all cluttered. No, I did not stutter. Listen to all that I've muttered. Your life will only go well if you win wisdom or lovers.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
You and I. You and I.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
Hey, what's going on? JC Johnson here for The Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And on this episode right here, we're actually going to be discussing the wisdom of resistibility. So what is that all about? What does it mean to resist? We're going to get more into that so that we can all be on the same page with it. You're listening on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside.
Hey, what's going on? JC Johnson here for The Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And we have another topic for you today, discussing resistibility. Now, on the last few episodes, we talked about accountability, we talked about marriageability, and we also talked about controllability. So if you missed any of those shows, don't worry about it, because you can always listen on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Google Play Music, anywhere like that. And you can hear past episodes. If you got an Alexa device, you can just say, Alexa, play For the Love of Wisdom, and it'll bring that up for you like that. So on the last episode, again, we were talking about accountability, and accountability is really important. I think that kind of ties into most of what we talk about here every week, because without accountability, it's going to be much harder to get certain things accomplished. So there was a pretty cool quote here from Stephen Fincher. He said, "Folks, I mean to keep my word. And if I don't, I'll give you my address and some rope." That's real accountability. And that's true, right? That's some real stuff right there, because what is he saying? He's saying that if what I'm saying is false or it doesn't produce results, I'm giving you the ability to come and hold me accountable. And that's the kind of accountability we should all have. But what about resistibility? What is resistibility all about? Well, according to one definition, resistibility is being capable of being resisted or withstood or frustrated. So that basically means that no matter what happens, it's saying that you're not going to let anything shake you. You're not going to let anything move you or destroy you. You're not going to let anything veer you off of your path to get you away from your mission. And there's a headline here. This is something that happened with Google, and it's pretty interesting. This just happened today, actually. This was published, and it's a story from USA Today, and it says that Google employees worldwide are staging a walkout to protest response to sexual misconduct claims. So what happened? Basically, this is saying that at Google, there's been an accusation of sexual misconduct against one of the workers there. And this is not, maybe just a regular worker, but this is somebody who is creating software. So this is somebody who they consider pretty valuable. So there's been 48 terminations in the last 2 years at Google because of sexual misconduct. That's a lot if you think about it. 48 in the last 2 years, not the last 20 years. In the last 2 years, 48 people have been terminated for sexual harassment, and 13 of those 48 were senior managers and above. But what is it that has people protesting now? I mean, it seems like this is just number 48 or 49, right? So what's the problem? Well, using the hashtag Google walkout, images spread across social media of employees at Google because basically the software creator Andy Rubin was given a $90 million exit package because of accusations of sexual misconduct. But it says that Google actually failed to disclose this because of what happened. And people at Google are pretty upset because they're saying, people have been, fired from this before and stuff like that, but nobody has ever received an exit package like that. Why is this person being given preferential treatment for doing something that's not right? For doing something that's not good. And as the recent article and executive response make clear, these problems go all the way to the top. So it says here that organizers of the walkout said in a statement, while Google has championed the language of diversity and inclusion, substantive actions to address systemic racism, increase equity, and stop sexual harassment have been few and far between. So whenever you have these huge companies, something is always liable to go wrong. And it seems like the companies that are the most innovative, that are making the most impact in the world, it takes manpower to do that. And the more people you have at your company, the more likely it is that something like this can happen. And it's sad that it happens. And there's no excuse for it. Now, this guy who is being accused, he says that these allegations are not true. He says that it's a smear campaign because he's going through a divorce and he believes that this is being done to weaken his credibility and have him lose out during his divorce settlement. So regardless of whether he's telling the truth or the person accusing him is telling the truth, the bottom line is that sexual harassment, sexual misconduct in the workplace, it can't be tolerated, and if it really did happen, then they shouldn't be rewarding that behavior by giving him $90 million. It's a lot of money. And this explains why people are speaking out against it. So when it comes to the topic that we're discussing today, resistibility, basically what this is saying is that there comes a time when it's time to really speak up and speak out against injustice, things that are not right. There's always something worth fighting for. Whether we fully understand the ramifications of it or not, right is right, wrong is wrong. And it takes a lot of courage to speak out against injustice, especially when you have a huge company that doesn't agree with you or who may give you some resistance. It takes a lot of courage to be the only one. It's like prophets in the Old Testament in the Bible. It seemed like they were the only ones who were warning people that living in a sinful way was going to bring consequences, and everyone else was saying the opposite. Everyone else was saying, no, things are good, things couldn't be better, this is a great time to be alive, what are you talking about, what are you worrying about? It takes courage to be that only one sometimes who's going to stand against injustice. And we've seen throughout the history of the world, whenever somebody stands against injustice, they do get persecuted. People do come against them. But ultimately, when you're doing the right thing, what can anyone really do to you anyway? What kind of harm can someone bring to you when you're on God's side, when you're standing up for things that are important to Him? Because when you're living a life like that, you really do have nothing to worry about. People can kill your body, People can kill your character, whatever, but nobody can kill your soul. Nobody can kill your spirit. Nobody can destroy you ultimately. They can try, they can attempt to, but there's nothing that anyone can do to you that exceeds the great things that God wants to do for you, especially when you're standing with him and you're standing against things that are wrong. God will have your back, even if everyone else is against you. Something to remember, but more on that after this. You're listening on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
You're now listening to For the Love of Wisdom on NorthCoastUnderground.com, where the underground starts with who? No other but you.
All right, what's going on? JC Johnson here, For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. Before the break, we were talking about one of the headlines just broke recently. People at Google are protesting because one of the software designers there was accused of sexual misconduct, and he was let go, and it wasn't made public. And when he was let go, he was given a $90 million severance package. Now, that is a lot of money for someone who's been accused of sexual misconduct. Now, in his defense, he does say that it's not true. He says it's a smear campaign. But, you know, I think that a company as large as Google has a responsibility to handle these kind of things delicately, because it can give a bad impression to people who are on the outside looking in, people who don't understand exactly what's going on. And you know, to give someone that much money when this has not even been fully investigated, and you know, especially when something like this, something as intolerable as sexual harassment, it incites people. It makes people upset. It makes people want to stand up against injustice, and that's what this is all about. Resistibility is the ability to really look at a situation and say, you know what, this is not good, and I can't support this, and no matter what, I have to stand up against this. I have to fight however I can. And I think that that's an awesome thing when people can do that. So when it comes to resistibility, what are some things that some notable people have had to say about it? Well, let's check it out. Here's one from William Faulkner. He said, "Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. If people all over the world would do this, it would change the earth." I have to agree. You see, the problem, though, is that not everyone is willing, because not everyone wants the discomfort that comes along with standing up against something that's wrong. Nobody wants to be that person, but it's really important. Here's one from Ellie Weissel. "We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." That's really true. Here's one from Bob Marley. It's from one of his songs. He says, "Get up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight." That's true. When you are standing up against injustice, when you're standing up against evil, you can get weary, you can get tired, you can say, man, this is frustrating because I'm not achieving the results that I really want to, and this is just becoming overwhelming. Maybe you feel like that. And what this song is saying is, no matter what, Don't give up. Stand up. Keep fighting. Martin Luther King Jr., he said that one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. You know, Martin Luther King, one of the most well-known leaders of the civil rights movement. What is he saying here? You're never going to get anywhere in life by just trying to turn a blind eye to something that is unjust. He says this is not just, you know, something that maybe you want to do, something you feel like doing, so you do it. He says this is a moral responsibility. Proverbs 31:8-9 says, speak up for people who cannot speak up for themselves. Help people who are in trouble. Stand up for what you know is right, and judge all people fairly. Protect the rights of the poor and those who need help. And that right there is true. That is some real wisdom right there, because, you know, you may not always know why a person's in the situation that they're in, right? You don't always have all the information, but when you can tell that somebody is at a disadvantage, when you can tell that somebody is in need of help, and I'm not talking about somebody who is killing people and stuff. I'm talking about somebody who's doing the right thing, and someone is coming against them, or something is coming against them. It's saying you need to stand up for people like that, people who can't stand up for themselves. Romans 13:1-3, it says, all of you must obey government rulers. Everyone who rules was given the power to rule by God. And basically it goes on to say that, you know, ultimately if you get in trouble by the law because you're doing the wrong thing, then you're supposed to get in trouble. You know, but don't feel bad because you're being punished for something that's punishable, because that's supposed to happen. But it goes on to say that basically when you do what's right, ultimately it's going to work out for you. It says, do you want to be free from fearing them, meaning those who can punish you? And it says, then do only what is right, and they will praise you. One other verse here, Matthew 10:21-22, it says, brothers will turn against their own brothers and hand them over to be killed. Fathers will hand over their own children to be killed. Children will fight against their own parents and have them killed. Everyone will hate you because you follow me, but the one who remains faithful to the end will be saved. That's a promise from Jesus. More on that later.
Knowledge is power, power is money, and money makes the world go round.
Money, power, respect, I get it. Higher, learning, yeah, I'm winning. Only get better with time, keep got on my mind with wisdom. There's no limit, there's no limit. Get up and get it, can achieve the impossible, conquer every obstacle. Exhausted from grinding, constantly pushing, do what they say I could. Life is what you make it. Knowledge is power, don't let them take it.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside. Come inside. Come inside. The truth will surely rescue you and I. You and I. You and I. If you're in love with wisdom, come inside. Come inside. Come inside. The truth will surely rescue you and I.
One dribble, steps back, puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound tip taken by Spades. Final seconds. It's over. It's over.